is it. The final lesson in this course, and it's going to be about one of the toughest things for testers to do: product coverage. Sometimes referred to as test coverage, product coverage is measuring and visualizing which areas, features, and scenarios in the app are covered by tests. Let's break this down so we can better understand why this is difficult for so many companies, but also why it's one of the most important artifacts and activities you do as a tester. A major problem in software testing is that testers will test and test, but no one really knows what they're testing or how they're testing it. That doesn't sound very BDD or TDD, right? It definitely doesn't sound like good teamwork. So why do the majority of testers have a problem with this? To be honest, the main reason is that they were never trained on how to do the things that you're learning in this course. They were never taught how to think about testing and how to turn their theories, questions, and curiosity into scenarios and examples with visual feature files. These artifacts can then be shared with your team to get feedback on and to be used as a reference later on. As we know, BDD and TDD are all about collaboration and understanding. And well, that's about 60% of what product coverage is. So you already have most of it down. The last piece we're missing is showing just how much of the application we're covering with our testing. Looking at Swag Labs, could you tell me how much of the application we're currently covering? 10%? Maybe 20%? We don't actually know. And not knowing doesn't really give me a lot of confidence as a tester or developer. The problem is that the lack of confidence slows us down quite a bit. We would spend a lot of time manually testing and checking things just to make sure they work because we don't trust that our testing efforts are covering everything we care about. That's the opposite of what we want to do as automation engineers, which is accelerating shippable quality. Here's another question. How many areas exist in the application? What are the features in each area? How about how many features are there? Again, you don't know. If it was only one developer and one tester building the entire application, sure, they would probably know all these answers. But in reality, there are many developers and testers working on different areas and features of an application. It's super easy to lose track of all the features and code, which is what makes this so difficult for someone that is inexperienced. However, this is exactly where product coverage saves the day. We will use a Google spreadsheet because it's free and easy to use, but there are other ways of visualizing product coverage. For now, we'll do this in the simplest way. Take a look at this spreadsheet. I started by listing out the areas that I'm currently aware of in our website. We have a login area, a checkout flow, catalog area, and a cart area. Then I added a second column with the percentage of coverage for each area. When I first started this, I didn't know, so I had them all at 0%. From there, I listed out the features within each area and the scenarios that describe the feature. You probably guessed it, but I took these straight from our feature files. To make it look a little bit prettier, I gave each area a color, so it's easier to see which features and scenarios belong to which area. Then I made a column to mark whether a scenario was covered by a test or not, and one more to say if it was covered by a UI test or if we still needed to cover it manually. Any scenario that wasn't covered, I made darker, and this covered was unchecked, which made it turn red. Visually, this makes it super obvious which scenarios are covered and which ones are not. This also made it easy for me to calculate the coverage percentage. My login area currently has 4 scenarios. 3 of them are covered. That means I have 75% coverage. I made the color key on the right to make it easy for other people to look at my product coverage and quickly understand the goal of my spreadsheet and what the different colors mean. The last thing is to use the data we have to make a really simple dashboard to answer our questions. In this case, our main question was, how much of our application is covered by tests? Currently, I have 15 scenarios defined. Of the 15, I have 9 scenarios covered with automated UI tests. With a really simple pie chart, you can see that 9 of the 15 scenarios are covered, which means that 60% of my application is covered, while 40% is not. Now, these numbers are a bit skewed because they only reflect my current understanding of the application. Notice how my checkout area only has a single scenario. Checkout successfully with a single item. Because I only have one checkout scenario and it's covered, it looks like I have 100% product coverage. However, don't you think I should have a scenario where I check out with many items? Because I sure do. So I'll add a new row to include my new scenario. Insert one below. And we'll add right here, checkout successfully, but instead of a single item, we'll make this many items. That means I now have 2 scenarios under checkout, but only one of them is covered. I'll change my product coverage to 50%, and now it turned red. The point here is that my numbers changed as soon as I learned more about the application and then added scenarios. At first, I thought I had 100%, but very quickly we saw that there were gaps in my coverage. Product coverage is a living document. This means it continues to change, and that's a good thing. But that's why I said that my coverage numbers are a bit skewed and inaccurate. The data is deceiving because I have not listed all of the areas, features, and scenarios in Swag Labs, so I'm missing a lot of coverage. Fortunately, you're a lot smarter and cooler than I am, so I know you'll do better because guess what? It's your turn to create your own product coverage. Alright, here we go, the final challenge. To start off, explore the entire Swag Labs application and identify the areas and features. I'd recommend having your product coverage spreadsheet created so you can just add these as you identify them. Then, create feature files and scenarios you think are important for each feature. Remember to put these feature files in our new features directory, by the way. With that, you should have everything you need to complete your product coverage spreadsheet. The last thing left to do is to achieve 100% product coverage with automated tests. You're done once you get your product coverage and pull request reviewed, approved, and merged. Now, there are some things to keep in mind as you work on the final challenge. We want 100% product coverage, but we also can't test everything. So what should you do? Well, this is where your oracle and judgments play a big part. I said you need to cover every scenario you think is important. In other words, you need to define what important means for Swag Labs. You also need to think about how much testing is too much. How much testing is not enough. For example, is it important that we see the Swagbot mascot on the login page and the other pages? Probably not, because Swagbot doesn't really impact the features or behaviors of the website. Now, this is a really simple application. but going through this exercise is going to teach you a ton and prepare you for the next courses and a role in automation engineering. With that, I bid thee one final farewell. I really hope you learned a lot and had fun throughout this course. Please reach out to me on email, LinkedIn, or Twitter, or any other social platform if you have any questions or would just like to connect. I'll be here, and I want to help and see you succeed, and even take automation engineering to the next level. My name is Carlos Kidman, and I'll see you next time. Bye.